Hey everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy and you are on the boat. This would be that late night boat. It's the midnight booze cruise. Monk, 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 monk. Good to see you, man. Mo, what's happening, 88? Good to see you. That would be Mo Lester, in case you're keeping track. Hey, I have some other things that I wanted to get to today. In fact, I wanted to get to them yesterday. I've been talking about Ryan Wedding. And I've been talking about Mr. Wedding since the very first time that this story ever came up, which was literally years ago at this point. Ryan Wedding is a fascinating case study because this guy sold, by all accounts, somewhere around 60 to 100 tons of cocaine. He was moving an awful lot of it into Canada. Yeah, I like the late night ones too, Monk. Moved a lot of the stuff into Canada and a lot of stuff onto U.S. streets. He has been busted once before. And I think this is worth talking about because people have said, what do you think is going to happen to Ryan Wedding? First of all, I think he's going to snitch. Make no mistake, he's going to snitch. The last time that he got popped, he had over 1,000 grams of cocaine, right? All you need is over 500, but there was a mandatory minimum involved in that. And there are only two ways that you don't do the mandatory minimum. One of them is that you get is what is called a safety valve. And this is what people say when they actually rat it on someone. Renee B., good to see you. For always, forever, for life. Good to see you. They'll say they got a safety valve. The safety valve almost never happens. It's for people that have never had any criminal history at all and people that are wicked remorseful and really are going out of their way to prove that this isn't who they are. That's not really what was going on with Ryan Wedding. So what do we got? We got a guy that should have done 10 years and was out on a kilo of blow in about 38 months, which means, make no mistake about it, this guy cut a deal. Now, I'm not mad at him. I swear to God, I'm not. But the first time around when the federal government was barking at this guy's back door, he cut a deal. He took what they call a 5K1. And I'm sorry, but you could not convince me any other way. The safety valve thing is almost a myth. It happens so infrequently that you can go your whole life and not meet somebody that actually had one where they can show you on paper. I've met dozens of people that claimed that the reason their sentence was short was because they had a safety valve. It never is that way. It's always somebody that ratted. So will he rat again? Most assuredly, he will rat again. Another interesting thing came out because he just appeared in court. He went in there and entered a not guilty plea. He has an attorney that is there, and the attorney came out afterwards and started to talk to the crowd. One of the things that the attorney said I found fascinating. He said, make no mistake, he didn't turn himself in. Not sure why they would want the world to know that, other than he's trying to take a shot at the Mexican government. People asked him questions about how long his client had been able to hide out. And he said, I don't believe my client was hiding out. What he was doing was living his life in another country, right? That's going to be the narrative. And he said, this is why we have courts. So I can go in and give you my narrative. They're going to give you their narrative, and you're going to see which one you actually believe. But as For Always, Forever, for Life says, rat once, rat again. Absolutely, especially since it worked the first time around. Barbara Wade, good to have you here. It worked the first time around. He didn't get the mandatory minimum. Now, this time around, which is kind of fascinating, he's got some weapons charges on there. He's also got some dead bodies. This makes it a hell of a lot harder to cut a deal. He's going to have to give them massive amounts of information. He's going to have to be able to give them information that is going to lead to big drug busts of big kingpins. Even that, what's he hoping to get out of this? Because if he thinks that he's going to get an out date, I just don't believe that could possibly happen. Do I know what state in Mexico he was living in? I do not, off the top of my head, know what state that the raid was on. I'm sure that they have announced it. I do remember them saying it wasn't far from Mexico City. So it's going to be hard to tell. Hey, the Johnny Scoville. He says, hey, everybody, hit the like, please. It does help if you hit the like button. So we've been having a lot of fun with people telling everyone where they're from when they first get into the chat. It's letting people on the boat know who one another are, where they're from. And it's interesting to find out that a lot of the people that I've been talking to for literally years, I'll go, I'm sorry, you're where? You just sort of assume that everybody's in the U.S. until you start hearing all the different places that people chime in from. Mesaw Smokes, good to see you. But here's what's fascinating. So he has bodies on this case. You know why he has bodies? He has bodies because he killed people who could have testified against him. He killed people that were in the process of cutting a deal, rats, so to speak. So he was going out of his way to kill people because they were rats. He put a $5 million bounty on one guy's head, and he is a rat, right? He is exactly what he claimed to hate. And this is honestly not that unusual. It really isn't. For Always Forever for Life says, watching from NYC, New York City. The city so nice, they named it twice. New York, New York. Tennessee girl, kind of a sitter. If you're not from Tennessee, then it's a clever name, I guess. But we're going to assume you're from Tennessee. This is ironic that this guy is out trying to kill witnesses and rats when he most assuredly was a rat himself. Some states in Mexico are on the State Department list for Americans not to visit. Yeah, I don't believe that list much anymore, honestly. If the United States State Department was to put out that list for the United States of America, and they took into account some of the cities with really high death rates like Chicago, Illinois, or just really high crime like some of the cities in Pennsylvania, Kensington Street, right, or Kensington section of Philadelphia, which is just an open-air drug flea market of people walking around looking like zombies. If that is where people thought you were going to be vacationing, it would look just as bad to anybody in the world as some parts of Mexico. Takes one to know one, a rat that is. Yeah. Barbara Ray, this to me is a fascinating situation. It really is. Because this is a guy that spent tons of money. Chicagoland, Laura Lou, great to have you here. I started without you, and that is on me, Just Joan. I'll tell you what, when this show is over, I'm going to write on the chalkboard, I will not start until Just Joan shows up. Honestly, you have my word. Philly is really, really rough. It looks like apocalyptic nowadays. Sadly, it really does, doesn't it? I mean, there are parts of Philly that, like, you look at Kensington, and it looks like a third world country. It doesn't look like the United States of America. It looks like someplace that is just, I don't know, almost like a dystopian drug future. Anything goes. People are walking around like zombies, folded over at the waist. People in public doing trank while tourists are walking by, locals are walking by, and there are people sticking needles in their arms. And before you laugh, tourism is actually a thing right now in Kensington. Two kinds of tourists. One is going there to see Kensington because it's just so damn unbelievable. And there is a drug tourism. I mean, people, if you want to buy anything on planet Earth, you can get it at Kensington. And you can get it for very, very little money. This is no joke. My brother could tell you this. But when I was in college, I had a friend named Big Steve. He drove a van that looked like the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo. Like it even said on the side, Mystery Machine. It was absolutely phenomenal. But he would drive down to Kensington to pick up cocaine because the price was so cheap compared to what it was where we went to college. But Kensington has been an open-air drug flea market forever. Even the police have basically given up on Kensington. They are outnumbered by the drug market. Yeah, they really are. And it has to be disheartening to arrest these people on Monday and then see them out on Tuesday, and arrest them on Wednesday and see them out on Thursday. You feel like you're swimming upstream and you're getting nothing done. That's demoralizing for a police force. Yes, I watched a documentary about Kensington, and it's heartbreaking. People are like zombies, and I feel for those people. I really do. But I feel more for the people that have been in Kensington for decades, right? They bought a house there, or they bought an apartment building there, and they've been living there their entire life. And now, lifelong Nashvilleian, all right, I love Nashville. They've been living there their whole life, and now they're in a combat zone. Now just simply walking outside of their house, puts them in something out of a horror movie. The prostitution is rampant. The number of people that are sexually assaulted every day in Kensington, when you do drugs that leave you completely incapacitated and unconscious, bad things are going to happen to you. And it's happening in Kensington every day. They also have amputation stations, right? They have hospital tent setups to bring people in so that they can bring them into the real hospital and amputate limbs. Because a lot of this, the drugs that they're shooting right now, a lot of the trank is literally just rotting limbs off of their body. Probably has a lot to do with the fact that one of the substances in there is xylazine, which is intended to be muscled, right? But in horses and cows. It wasn't designed to do what it's doing. And they're putting it in veins. If you miss, if that gets into the subcutaneous tissue, then you're in deep trouble. You're just going to sort of rot away. My list of American cities not to visit are vast. Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Seattle are a few. Obviously not suburbs. Yeah, they're not as bad as but tourists don't visit suburbs. You're right, they don't. I know, Laura Lou, it's absolutely horrible. Holy smokes, says D. Canuck. But that's what we're looking at, right? This is the reality of places like that. It's gross, it's disgusting, and we can thank people like Ryan Wedding for making this happen. People that took a look at this situation and went, boy, I know exactly how I can capitalize on this. I know people, I have connections, so I will take people that I know on boats and have them meet up with the larger vessels so that they can get kilos of blow or kilos of fentanyl or whatever it is that they're choosing to move. And he ran into situations where people didn't pay him, he killed them. He ran into situations where people were trying to tell on them, he killed them. He may not be Pablo Escobar, but he sure as hell is acting like a goon. And now he's going to have to face the criminal justice system. And when you're killing people, it's one thing if all you're doing is selling dope, right? You can cut a pretty nice deal for yourself. But if you're killing people, that's different. And he killed witnesses, people that were working with the feds. I can't believe there's nothing the government can't do about Kensington. They don't want to do anything about it. Philadelphia and Seattle are both beautiful. I have lived in the burbs of both. Kensington is one part of Philly. There's a ton more. Seattle, like any other cities, has some bad places. I agree with you. Hello, Chickacherry Cola. I agree with you. And that's kind of the point that I was making, honestly, just Joan, is that when the State Department says, don't go to this part of Mexico, Miss Weedy Poo, good to have you here. When the State Department says, don't go to this part of town, it's really, no different than what just Joan is saying right now. There are places that are going to look really ugly. I remember a documentary years ago talking about Russians shooting drugs that caused amputations. You're talking about a drug that they called crocodile. And it's a very toxic opioid. And during the right around the time of the fall of communism in Russia, there was a lot of people that were sort of without hope. Right? There were a lot of people there that their entire life had been built on believing that this was a superior type of government, something like that. And when this came out, it was depression for a lot of people. And they were taking diesel fuel. Pay attention. This will blow your mind. They were taking diesel fuel and codeine. And they used the diesel fuel to break down the codeine. And what you have left when it's all said and done is a very, very potent opioid that if you miss, you're done. And what's crazy is this. If you didn't miss, you were still done. It was going to end up rotting your veins out from the inside out. And it makes your skin take on a very unbelievable kind of a look. It gets almost leathery in appearance, which is not why they call it crocodile. It's a different reason. It has something to do with a language other than ours. However, it's certainly a nice coincidence that you start looking like a pair of Italian loafers when you shoot this stuff. And they say the mortality rate from people that inject this is like 98%, because once you start shooting it, you're never going to stop, in spite of the fact that it's literally causing you to cut limbs off, causing you to have your circulatory system shut down. In a lot of cases, it really, really messed people up. Some parts of downtown Detroit have been revitalized and are beautiful. 5 miles down Woodward Avenue looks like it's been bombed. Yeah, you're right. Chicago is the same. Just got to know where you should go and where you should not. Well, look at this. Good Lord, still going. Yes, I am. This is, if you've never checked out Relatable Reese, you should go over and do that. This is my my better half, and I do mean better half. Although her brain, kind of like a sieve these days. Either that or I'm just not all that memorable in the sack. I'm just saying, there's a big push, Barbara Waite, going on in Detroit where they're literally giving away parts of the city to people. Hey, Ann from Mass, good to see you. They're giving away parts of the city where if you come in and you show them that you will take this property and you will start to revitalize, they're giving people incredible tax breaks or no joke, just take the land. but you have to show that you're going to do something with it. And there are people that are, without exaggeration, there are people that are taking control of entire city blocks and trying to revitalize it. And it's doing beautiful things for that city. And that at one time was one of the most wealthy cities on the planet. When the American car industry was booming, the number of rich people that lived in Detroit was incredible. Unfortunately, with us sending a lot of that manufacturing out of the country, it got really bad for Detroit. When I worked as a public speaker, it was one of the few places that when I was speaking there, no, you're supposed to promote yourself, kiddo. That's what you're supposed to do. If you don't, who will, other than me? I would not leave the hotel. It was one of the few places that I went, I'm not kidding, where I simply would not leave the hotel. It was frightening. And that's sad. You hate to see that in any city in the U.S., but it is worth mentioning because every time, someone finds out I live in Ecuador, they'll go, oh, do you know what the State Department says about Ecuador? I promise you, and my girl can back this up, where I am at is as safe as any place you're going to feel in America. It is ridiculously safe. People walk around at night at all hours of the evening, and there's not a lot of crime where I am. That doesn't mean that there aren't parts of Ecuador, just like, Joan was saying. There are parts of Ecuador that are going to be like some of the nastiest parts of downtown cities, right? Do you think these possible fentanyl or possible trank drugs could have made you question your H and quit? It's a very interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that, unfortunately, Bragg walked around practically naked. In fact, she may have walked around naked until she got the attention of the poor guy living next door. I don't know that it would have, but it's easy to say that now where I am. But even when really incredible dope came to town, I was not a person that overdosed. I just, for whatever reason, most people have overdosed several times over the course of their, drug use career, especially if I just never, if you're going to do it for 30 years, there's going to be a lot of overdoses. And that never happened to me. So I would have watched people around me die, but I don't think it would have had the same effect on me as it would have on other people. And once people started dying, I would back off, right? I mean, I was not a guy that wanted to see how close I could get to the edge. And there are those junkies, to be sure. It was an accident. Sweet set of Hooters you got there. Great line. Hopefully you got that reference. Really a great line. One of the things that really makes me laugh about my girl is that she quotes movies at the perfect time. And they're always good for a laugh. So that's a great question, Just Joan. I doubt it would. By the way, if you caught my last show, somebody said, stop calling drug addiction a disease. It's amazing I didn't lose it. Because it's a very frustrating thing in 2025 that there are people that still wrestle with that. If you can't come to grips with the fact that drug addiction is a disease, I get it. I really do. But hearing people say it out loud, it's one of those things that causes individuals to stay in the game, right? The stigma that is attached to drug addiction, the more that we can normalize it, the better a chance we have of saving people's lives. And it is normalized, whether you want to admit it or not. There's nobody on planet Earth these days whose life have not been touched by drug overdose, not just drug addiction, right? But with the number of people that have overdosed on fentanyl and on the drugs like it, everybody, and I do mean everybody, knows somebody that overdosed. Renee B says, "Dear Lord, I lost it over that comment, but restrained myself." I did too. It's a simplistic answer to a dangerous problem. It's not an answer at all, right? It isn't. But it's once you understand that this is a disease, then it has to be treated like such. If people don't make this a disease, right, then what you have is a battle of willpower. And look, you want willpower? I mean, Johnny Scoville, that dude eats, 30 super hots, right? 30 Carolina Reapers. I promise you, folks, try to eat one of those. The amount of willpower it takes to burn yourself like that is epic, but it has nothing to do with willpower. If it was, it would be pretty easy to quit, but that's not what it's about. And when you understand that and you get a grip on exactly what that means, your odds of beating it are better. So I kind of lose it because the other thing is science has proven it, like it or not. I mean, do a little research. Science has proven that this is a disease like any other. Sorry, it is. The reason that people don't like hearing that is because they think it gives the drug addict a get out of jail free pass, and it does not. Great question, Renee. A friend called me tonight, and I'm heading to bed shortly. Who the hell is Jake? But I know that friend that called you. The shadow of morality hangs over drug addiction in ways that doesn't other diseases. Right or wrong, it's still there in the opinions of some. Absolutely, right? Absolutely. This is real. The other thing is this. You know how I compare this to diabetes, but the symptoms of diabetes, you may have a constant thirst. You might urinate more than somebody else, but your symptoms aren't going to piss off the rest of the world. And one of the problems with drug addiction and alcoholism, right? They're the same disease, just a different substance. But what happens is your symptoms piss off the rest of the world. Your symptoms cause you to steal from people. Your symptoms cause you to lie to people, right? Those are the symptoms, and people have to deal with that. And there's not, we don't get angry at somebody that has any other disease. It's also a fascinating disease because it is really, it's odd, right? That any other disease, you find out that you have cancer, you run to the oncologist as fast as you can. You might eat fig Newtons, just guessing. I remember Jake, she says. Jake from State Farm? No, Jake from the male strip club. There is a morality that hangs over this, right? But no other drug makes you want to deny the fact. No other disease makes you want to deny the fact that you have the disease. If somebody says, the doctor goes, hey man, you have cancer. You don't go, no, I don't. That's ridiculous. I'm going home. I don't have cancer. That's the stupidest thing anyone's ever said. And no, I'm not going to go get treatment because I don't have cancer. But people do that all of the time. Not to mention that bet you made about the Christmas cookies with Jake. Yeah, you owe more than just money. This is, without a doubt, one of the biggest problems with this particular disease. You understand? Nobody denies having any other disease. Hello, Valerie, except drug addiction. And to some extent, mental illness as well. Actually, a Scientologist would say that to a doctor. You're right. You're absolutely right. But a Scientologist probably wouldn't be in front of a doctor, right? He'd be in front of some homeopath that said to him, all you need is more vitamins and some CalMag. Drug abuse is like being under a spell, says Patty King. And you're absolutely right. D. Canuck says, I hadn't thought of it like that. A lot of people don't. And again, it's easy to hate a drug addict. It's not easy to hate someone that has lupus, right? It's not easy to hate somebody that has cancer or somebody that has diabetes, but their symptoms don't affect the people that aren't afflicted. Drug addiction and alcoholism, your symptoms as an addict mess with everybody around you that you love. And to say it's a disease means they look at it and go, cancer's a disease. My grandmother died of cancer. She didn't choose to die of cancer. Your dumbass chose to do heroin. And for a lot of people, it's something that you have to do. I don't think drug or alcohol addiction is a disease. J.L. Biddle, I love you, but science has already proven that it is. It has symptoms, it progresses, and there is a test that you can do to test one person versus another with brain scans and say, this person has it, that person doesn't. Those three things make something a disease. Science has done this. This has been a debate that happened for a long time. Do you believe, J.L. Biddle, that diabetes is a disease? Or do you not think diabetes is a disease? And I'm not busting your chops, but these are very, very important subjects. These are very important things to talk about. There are people who would have hated my brother because he was gay. However, they didn't know that fact and thought he was wonderful. People are strange. Science is theoretical. Well, look, that's a bit of a cop-out. I'm sorry, but it is. Do you believe that diabetes is a disease? I'm not busting your chops, but do you believe diabetes is a disease? Because here's what we know about diabetes. Genetically, you have it or you don't, right? Um, yeah, you've got, so you don't believe diabetes is a disease. Then there are no diseases. Then we're good. Honestly. So what you mean is there aren't any diseases, or which ones do you think are diseases? Look, I respect you, I love you, but that's just silliness. A disease has a genetic component, something that you can be born with, and you get born with diabetes, right? From day one, you can't process sugar the way you're supposed to. Then there's a second type of diabetes that you still have to have the genetic precursor for, and you can catch diabetes. You can catch cancer by smoking cigarettes. So that's not a disease either. There are a lot of diseases out there, right? There are a lot of diseases out there that you can catch through behavior. AIDS is a disease you can catch through behavior. It most assuredly is a disease, right? In fact, AIDS stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. It is, by definition, I promise you, something that you can catch through bad habits. Reese says, I am diabetic. It's definitely a choice. That's type 2 diabetes, right? It is lifestyle. There's the precursor there. Then your lifestyle brings the disease into play. Just like someone who could have the precursor for AIDS is communicable. Absolutely it is. So what your definition of a disease would be if it is communicable, or what is, it's still a choice, right? If you chose never to do any of the habits that bring that on, then you got nothing to worry about, right? Your odds of catching it. I have the chubby girl kind. You have the perfect girl kind. It's the size is absolutely perfect. So does someone who was given a blood transfusion back in the day been an IV drug abuser or has risky unprotected sex who got HIV not a disease? No, it's most assuredly a disease. Eating sugar is a slow suicide. Okay. And you know what? You have a right to believe that that drug addiction is not a disease. With all due respect, you're wrong. But you have a right to your opinion. You also don't think that diabetes is a disease. I assure you that the rest of the planet would disagree with you on that. But you have you seem to have a thought concerning how this works, and I will allow you to believe that, and that's okay. Unfortunately, here's the thing. That mindset abuses addicts and it keeps people from quitting. And this has been going on for a really long time. You see, if it isn't a disease, then it's a character defect. And trying to cure someone who has a character defect is a much more difficult thing, right? It really is. What it means is you're broken. It means you're sick. It means that there's something really not right with you. And no other disease does that to people. Somebody that gets diagnosed with cancer, nobody goes, well, you're really kind of a piece of shit, aren't you? Huh? That's kind of how it works. Lupus, boy, you're a scumbag, aren't you? Huh? You just lie to everybody you know. The only disease that we really beat on people for is the disease of addiction. And the longer that there is the narrative out there that this is a character defect, this is you're not as good a person as your neighbor, then we're going to see a lot of people that continue to stay in the life a lot longer than they should have. And that's kind of a tragedy. It really is. Why do we need people to blame? Well, I personally don't feel the need to blame anybody. What I hope is that we can come at this with an angle of education so that people get an idea. Addicts sing the song of victimization. Have you heard me do that? I'm a drug addict. You're here watching me. I'm a drug addict. Am I singing the song of victimization? J.L. Biddle? And with all due respect, right? You've come here and talked about some things that have happened in your life that most assuredly victimized you. And nobody went, oh, you're crying the victim thing, right? Because there are unfortunate situations. And unfortunate situations, do I use? No, I do not use. But I did for 30 years. And I didn't do it because I wanted to. I didn't do it because I was having fun. It was absolutely miserable. And it is an absolute miracle that with my drug of choice, I was able to get sober. But I'll be honest, I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you're doing this because this is a great opportunity for people to see this. I'm attacking you. And you say, ha, I knew you would attack me. Did I call you an idiot? Huh? I'm not attacking you, but you came here and talked about things and nobody said to you, right? Oh, you're playing the victim thing. But anybody that's a drug addict is playing the victim thing. I think that's hateful, to be really honest with you. And it certainly doesn't benefit the people that are trying to get sober. I was thinking obesity gets super judgy treatment too. It does. Renee B says, I've got a predisposition for type 2 diabetes. I was borderline when pregnant. If I gained weight and had a poor diet, I'd need to be medicated. I'm predisposed. No judgment to anyone here. You haven't been attacked? Who's the victim? I'm not trying to attack anyone. I'm glad that you sat in AA for 3 years listening to it. Well, I don't know whether or not you were just in there auditing the class or if you were trying to use it as a way to get sober. I'm not really sure. So you're not an addict. You were just sitting in there for entertainment, right? That's odd. I'm not sure why you would have been in there. But the 12th step of that program says, having had a spiritual awakening, we went to try to help other people who were in the same way. Right? It's I don't know. It is what it is. And that is one way to get sober. There are many ways to get to the finish line. But amazingly, even the medical community used to say that this was a disease that couldn't be treated. If you were an alcoholic, just keep them away from guns. Don't let them drive cars so that they don't hurt other people, right? And it took a couple of drug addicts, a couple of alcoholics to say, I'll stop you from drinking tomorrow. The other one said, I'll stop you from drinking tomorrow. And that literally proved that these were treatable, that somebody could actually be pulled out of that mental illness. And thank God that happened, because since then, tens of millions of people have gotten sober. But I wanted to come on. I wanted to tell you that Ryan Wedding has appeared in front of a judge. His attorney said he absolutely had his place raided, that he did not turn himself in, and that it is just sort of a political move for the government in Mexico to claim that they turned him over, right? Some people have a chemical imbalance that predisposes them to become an addict, and some people can use drugs and not become addicted, in my opinion. Well, that's a fact. That is a fact. It is just the way it goes. You see it all the time where two people go to college. They both join a fraternity, right? They hang out together. They came from the same town. They party on the same things every single day. And at the end of that 4 years, one goes, yep, I got to go get my shit together. I'm about to become a teacher. And the other one goes, yeah, I'm about to become a stockbroker. One can't quit, has no hope. The other had no problem, just walked away from it. And they had the same experience, came from the same place, same kind of life experience. One of them had a predisposition to addiction and one did not. AA and NA can be very destructive. So many weirdos and predators in there. Very difficult if you're a woman, right? That is absolutely a fact. Jay Biddle, I'm not attacking you, but a day is going to come where this kind of attitude will never be mentioned again. And it will be looked at the same way as guys used to say, what was she wearing when somebody was sexually assaulted? Because it's coming from a place that you just don't understand the nature of the disease that you're talking about. And it's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But it is absolutely a harmful and a hateful one. I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you. And I've watched what this does to people, right? It is what it is, though. Also in NA and NA, a lot of those people were court ordered. Sadly, that's the truth, Tara. It used to work a lot better before the courts would say, you got to do 100 meetings in 100 days, or you got to do 90 meetings in 90 days. And it just continues where you have to go in and get a piece of paper signed by whoever the speaker is. Now you've got a watered down group of people in there where there might be 100 people attending the meeting, but 15 or 20 of them are there because they actually wanted to be there. And just the way that addiction therapy works, if you don't want to be in the room, then you're probably not going to be in a great headspace to actually move forward and do so in a fashion that's going to be effective for you. So just to if you just got here, Ryan Wedding, this was the guy that was a snowboarder for the Canadian Olympic team. Had a pretty illustrious career. Unfortunately, his last attempt was in Salt Lake City at the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake. He placed 24, and from there he started doing all kinds of drugs. Then he started selling them, started off with weed, got into a lot of debt, got married, and used the connections from getting married to start selling blow. Got caught, did a short period of time in the U.S., got out, started selling again big time, and since then allegedly moved between 60 to 100 tons, right, of drugs into the U.S. No, he was not a Mormon. He was a Canadian. That's actually a great comment. One's sobriety is prerequisite to discovering why they were drinking and drugging, self-medicating to begin with, self-inventory to identify root causes. I agree. Second Live, I wonder what you think. The guy who was emotionally abusive towards me smoked astronomical amounts of weed. Is that considered an addict weed? You can be addicted to anything, and you most assuredly can be addicted to marijuana. You won't be physically addicted in the sense of like you would be with heroin or alcohol or benzos, where if you don't have it, bad things are going to happen to you. But there are people who become psychologically dependent on it, and it's as bad as any other addiction that way. It absolutely is. So after this guy started to go on the road and started killing me, right? Literally started whacking people that he thought were addicts, people that he thought were rats, rather, people that he thought had ripped him off. But he started paying to have people killed. You're acting like you're better than me, more knowing because you claim to have a disease and I don't. Over and over, I listen to people brag about how their parents gave the car back, reactivated, about how parents gave the car back, reactivated. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what that means. And I'm not trying to act like I'm better than you. Medical science has already stopped this debate. You want to continue to have it? You can. People can still have debates after science, but then you say science isn't a science and diabetes isn't a disease. With all due respect, this is a ridiculous conversation. If you don't believe that diabetes is a disease, then we don't have a lot to talk about, right? These are things that have been decided so long ago. It is incredible, right? How long ago these things were no longer debatable, right? They're not debatable anymore. So you can have whatever science is theoretical and you're a jackwagon. Do me a favor, somebody time her out for the day because this is just ridiculous. And if this is your headspace, I don't need you here. I'm sorry. I've been as nice as I can be, but you don't believe diabetes is a disease. Then this is a conversation that you don't have the brain pan to participate in. I'm sorry. That's the way it goes. And if anybody here is offended by that, feel free to put a 2 in the chat if you think I'm being mean to Miss Biddle, right? If you happen to agree, you can put a 3 in the chat, right? You can feel free to hurt my feelings and tell me that I'm wrong on this. It won't bum me out. It really won't. But this is a debate that has been over for so long. I'm sorry. And if you don't want to believe it's a disease, you can do that. But the kind of rhetoric that you're throwing out about, the pity parties and all of this stuff, you're really helping the cause. And this channel is more about helping the cause, right? We were very happy to listen when you wanted to come over and tell us about things that you wanted to talk about that no one else would listen and give you an opinion on. I was more than happy to do so in the middle of my show, right? But this is just, this is no bueno, right? It's setting back the mission, right? That people have been working on for a long time. Tara Jackson says, I have never got the impression that anybody in this chat or channel thinks they're better than anybody. Good Lord, no. I've never called myself a good person, and I won't. I certainly don't think I'm better than anyone. The only people who talk that nonsense about addiction not being a disease, I'm probably a good candidate for sobriety. Here's the thing. I mean, honestly, you want that opinion? Go ahead and have it. But this is a place where I do everything I can to help people. And to come in here and say, no, it's not a disease, then it's just a character defect. It's not hard to say no to drugs, but you sat for 3 years in AA. So apparently it must have been tough to say no at some time, right? It just doesn't seem to be It's non sequitur. The things you're saying don't make a tremendous amount of sense. And Relatable Reese is still here, which means I'm going to end this thing because I need to go and talk to my woman, people. But I do appreciate everybody being here, and I appreciate a spirited debate. It does get to a point, though, where it's ridiculous. If you say, well, do you think diabetes is a disease? No, right? Because you can make choices for diabetes. Okay, then, I mean, what are we going to talk about? You have your own set of beliefs that nobody else believes, right? No one else believes it. And if you say, well, look, science has dictated this, science is theoretical. No, it's not. Science shows that things can be proven. That is the definition of science. It's not theoretical. A theoretical scientist is different. This science says, here is the hypothesis, and here's how you prove it. And they've done it with double-blind tests, and this has been going on forever. These are absolutely diseases. You don't want to believe that? Knock yourself out. Just Jones says, go talk to your woman, and I think it's a hell of an idea. Between now and the next time I see you, do me a favor. Put a little love in your heart. Get on over there and hit subscribe to The Johnny Scoville. Certainly hit subscribe here. You'll thank me later unless you're, anyway. And get over there and give my wife a follow. You'll thank me later. She's a heck of a lot of fun, even if she can't remember all of the great things that I've done with her. Giggity. I'm Tommy. I will see you on the next one. God bless. Have a good night.